Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory.
His name was Maul. His story began on Dathomir, a desolate world steeped in the power of the dark side, home of the feared witches of Dathomir and their ancient dark rites. As a Zabrak, born among the Night Brothers, he was little more than a slave to the ruling witches, the Night Sisters. The Night Sisters were an offshoot of the witches of Dathomir, witches who were cast out of their clans for practicing dark magic that the true witches of Dathomir deemed as heresy. Through their dark magic, a Sith ritual, Maul's flesh was scored with painful tattoos. As he grew, these marks would continue to grow, becoming his symbols of pain, power, and purpose. By the bloodline's brutal tradition, his father was sacrificed at the feet of Mother Talzin, clan mother to the Night Sisters. Fearing the same fate for her son, Maul's mother, a Night Sister by the name of Kycina, defied destiny. She ventured into the scattered cities of Dathomir in search of someone, anyone, who could break her child's chains. There she found a man, a passerby, young and unassuming, yet surrounded by a shadow she could feel.
Good sir.
Are you addressing me? I must apologize. I am not interested in any wares.
Wait. If you can spare a moment.
She sensed great power and influence in him, a presence unlike any other. She believed this man might be the key to saving her son.
Save your praises for the rubies, woman. Even though you are correct that I am far from the rest, then you know I have no time to waste on confidence games, or tricks, nor wasting my time.
I don't ask for credits.
What then? Come to the point.
It is a gift I offer.
A Zabrak infant. How do you come by this newborn? Have you stolen him?
You misunderstand, good sir. My own child, this one is.
With a reluctance, the stranger examined the boy. He saw something worth taking. What Maul's mother did not know was that this man was far more than influential. He was a Sith Lord in hiding, Darth Sidious. Driven by the teachings of the Sith and a hunger for power, Sidious had scoured the galaxy for places strong in the dark side. Dathomir had seemed irrelevant until he met the child. Even then, he was unsure what purpose Maul might serve, but Sidious felt that the Force was strong in him, and that was enough.
Have you named him?
His name is Maul.
You will forget this encounter.
He took the boy and hid him away. Not long after the attempt on his master Darth Plagueis' life, Palpatine finally revealed Maul's existence. On Abora, he presented the boy that could be used not as a Sith apprentice, but as a tool, an assassin that could be trained in the ways of the Sith, but never be fully one of them.
The Jedi have long known that the dark side has been reawakened and cannot be checked by them. Now they have felt it on their own Coruscant.
Even so, we cannot continue to risk exposure.
You have more to say about this.
Master, would you consider training someone in the Sith arts to execute whatever missions are required?
Another Venomous, in defiance of our partnership.
Darth Plagueis was initially angered and shocked by this revelation. He saw it as a betrayal of their pact. But Palpatine, as always, persuaded him.
Not an apprentice. Not someone who could ever aspire to become a true Sith Lord. But someone skilled in stealth and combat, who could be eliminated when no longer needed.
The boy could be useful, disposable, deadly, deniable. And in the end, Plagueis agreed.
Many Zelrak demonstrate strength in the Force, by nature it would seem. Might not the Tolson pursue the infant?
She may.
Then it will be your business if she does.
Maul's true training had begun. The facility on Abora belonged to Plagueis, but it was Sidious who shaped the boy, as his own master had once shaped him. Sidious spared no cruelty. Mistakes earned pain. Mercy invited worse. Maul's body was pushed beyond its limits, time and time again, the Force itself being used as a weapon against him. Each lesson revealing more of Maul's rage. Dangerous and untamed. Exactly what Sidious was searching for. On Mustafar, Maul's teachings intensified. Suspended by chains and tortured over a pool of acid, Maul was taught the histories of the ancient Sith Lords. Sadao, Nad, Exar-Kun, Revan, Khan, and Bane. He was taught of their glories, their power. Each of the Lord's histories burned into his memory like fire across flesh. Only upon freeing himself from the chains would he be deemed worthy of their status.
Master, do the Sith Lords still exist?
I would not rule out the possibility. Just remember, the Jedi do not tolerate Force users outside their order. It is because of them that you and I live in secret. Had they discovered you on Dathomir before I, they would have attempted to mold you into one of their own. A mindless, obedient servant for the Republic. Had they failed, they would have destroyed you. Now that you have been informed of the truth, how would you describe the Jedi?
They are cowards, Master. Cowards and tyrants, they are weak.
Do not underestimate the Jedi. Even though they have a fatal flaw, they are formidable.
What is their fatal flaw, Master?
Compassion.
And, like a blade master honing a weapon, his lesson above the vat of acid would be repeated. Maul would endure or die trying. In the years that followed, his training continued, and his hatred of the Jedi deepened. Of their order, of their code, his contempt grew. He did not just oppose them, he despised them. At the age of 10, Maul was transferred to an academy on the planet Orsus that trained in the ways of the assassin. Forbidden by Sidious from revealing his Force abilities, he was there to train and heighten his physical senses. Under the watchful eye of Director Trezor, an associate of Plagueis, Maul was introduced to the students. He was immediately challenged to prove himself by one of the students. Maul was ferocious. He broke the student and beat him into the dirt with a rage far beyond his years. He would fit in. He would fit in well. Between Maul's physical lessons in tactics and death, Sidious would continue his own brutal force conditioning. For one such lesson, he took Maul to the planet Mygeeto, a frozen hell of endless white and bitter winds. The unforgiving nature of the planet was no test to Maul. He excelled. He never once was slowed or hindered. Expecting praise at how far he had grown in his abilities, he was taught another lesson. With the Force, Sidious cast Maul into an icy lake. For the first time in a long time, Maul felt fear. He cried out. No answer came. He was alone, cold, drowning, silence. And from that silence came the flame of fury. He turned fear into strength, fury into anger, an anger that pushed him back to the surface, an anger that carried him to the shore. Sidious looked on and simply turned and walked away. The lesson was done. At Orsus, Maul survived. He endured, excelling under Trezor's relentless training. Maul pushed himself to his limits, often wondering what purpose lay behind the brutal lessons. And so Maul waited, not just for his trials, but for the moment he would prove to them all that he was more than a student. He was becoming a weapon. As the years went by, quickly Maul had become very powerful. His rage bled with every challenge, every test. Somewhere beneath the fury, he created a code of honor. Those he deemed worthy opponents were granted quick, merciful deaths. It was respect, in his own brutal way. Those he deemed unworthy, he taunted and savored in their executions. Sidious brought him to Hypori, a graveyard world in the Outer Rim. He was left there alone, no explanation, no parting words, just a hostile wasteland of nothing. And then there were waves upon waves of assassin droids, set to kill. Maul fought with abandon. Droid after droid fell to his blade. The initial joy in combat fading to resolute focus, as there seemed to be no end in sight. After a month of hell, Sidious returned to his apprentice.
More. Where is the droid, my master?
I will be your opponent.
What, master?
You cannot be as pathetic as you look.
Maul had never once considered killing his master until this moment. The duel between the two was the most rageful Maul had ever been, the dark side fueling his fury as Sidious toyed with him, having the time of his life.
You are that pathetic. You are weak. Not worthy of being a Sith Lord. I have misjudged you. I expected your failure. I saw your weaknesses long ago. Your doubts in your own abilities, your lack of faith in my teaching, your inability to embrace the dark side, And that is why, over these long years, I have secretly trained another apprentice.
Liar.
Oh, poor Maul. All he ever wanted was a friend. Does it please you to know I have another apprentice? Does it make you feel less alone?
More than one apprentice is against the rules of the Sith.
You are right. A spark of intelligence. At last. My second apprentice is on the other side of the planet. He conquered all the assassin droids sent after him. He only sustained a flesh wound. He is healthy. He is strong.
No, I can direct it. My rage will consume my enemy. It will consume my master.
Can you understand? Focus. If there can be only one apprentice, then one of you must die. Who do you think I have chosen to die? Maul?
Sidious basked in tormenting Maul mentally throughout their duel. Never before had Maul felt such rage from within himself.
You want to kill me, don't you? You want to kill your master.
Yes.
You hate me.
Yes.
Do you feel the hate?
Yes.
Good. It is the source of your strength. You still hate me? No matter. Today you have delivered yourself into my hands. I have the power of life or death over you, Maul. Someday you will hold that power over another. It is the honor of the Sith. You will devote yourself to the idea of domination.
But what about the other apprentice?
There is no other apprentice.
What?
You have passed the test. From this day forward, you are a Sith Lord. You have chosen a path of darkness, the path of power. You are Lord Maul. You are my instrument.
Yes, my master.
Your rage. You enjoyed it, didn't you? You enjoyed wanting to kill me.
I took pleasure in it.
You will do well, Lord Maul.
From that moment on, he was not just Maul. He was Darth Maul, Dark Lord of the Sith. Over the next decade, Maul remained a loyal enforcer of his master's will. Under the guidance of both Palpatine and Plagueis, he worked in the shadows to sow discord within the Republic. A chaos that would eventually pave the way for Palpatine to rise to Chancellor. As part of this grand design, Maul envisioned himself as the embodiment of terror that would haunt the Jedi Order. He would be their assassin, their living nightmare. One of his earliest missions was to hunt down the greatest living Jedi at the time, Siolo Uomanka, a warrior monk who rejected the lightsaber. Manka believed himself purer than the Jedi who wielded them. He had isolated himself on a remote jungle world in the Gentaris system, seeking solitude in meditation. Maul found him there, calm and unmoving. A Jedi in the open? Without hesitation, Maul ignited his lightsaber and lunged to strike. But Manka responded in an instant, not with a blade, but with a wooden staff. Maul was stunned by the Jedi's speed and fluid precision. Despite Maul's ferocity, Manka outmatched him, disarming him and forcing him to retreat. Rather than deliver a killing blow, Manka let him live.
It occurred to me that I should die, the Prince of Failure. But no, I would instead resolve to beat this enemy.
Humiliated and knowing Sidious would not forgive failure, Maul swore to defeat Manka. Using Sith schematics provided by his master, he forged a new weapon, a double-bladed saber staff, inspired in part by the histories of Exar Kun and the traditional war lance of his own species. With this, he returned to face the Jedi once more. Maul kept the second blade hidden and baited Manka into his opening strike. Maul was ready and dodged the familiar move and mirrored it, allowing himself to be disarmed. As Manka pressed in, pinning his staff to Maul's throat, this time Maul caught his weapon with his other hand, and the hilt of the saber was pinned against the Jedi's back. Maul grinned. He triggered the hidden blade. The crimson energy ignited through Manka's back, ending the Jedi's life in a flash of searing light.
Impressive. You should name this weapon. I foresee it will tell great tales.
No, my master. It, like myself, is nothing more than a tool in your fist. It is undeserving of honor. Let it be nothing more than what it is, an instrument of murder. And nameless.
Maul would be involved in several other missions. The orchestrated kidnapping of Sly Moore, meddling in the Trade Federation's affairs. But the largest mission yet was when Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious orchestrated the Yinchorri uprising as part of their strategy to destabilize the Republic and manipulate the Jedi into a conflict with the Yinchorri.
What will the Jedi do, Master?
Do? What else can they do? But my bidding.
To ignite the crisis, Darth Maul was sent to recruit Vilmath Vili Grok, a Devorian smuggler chosen for his expendability and pliability. After an intense encounter on Coruscant, Sidious directly instructed Garg to aid in arming the Yinchorri with cortosis-based weaponry. Eventually, the Yinchorri seceded from the Republic and began attacking nearby systems, culminating in the murder of 2 Jedi whose bodies were dumped into the Supreme Chancellor's office, although Maul personally longed to join the conflict. Sidious held him back, believing it was more valuable to let others act as the Sith's tools and allow Maul's hatred to fester and grow.
made him fearsome.
Fearless as well. He is even more formidable against living beings.
I agree with you that he should bear witness to the Yinchorri attack on the Jedi Temple.
Thank you, Master. I will tell him. He already thinks of the Jedi as abominations. The sight of their sanctuary being violated will quicken his blood.
Even so, hold him back. Let his anger and hatred fester.
The Yinchorri would later attack the Jedi Temple. Maul observed from afar, disappointed and frustrated that he could not join in the battle. He watched the skirmish unfold, noting both the Jedi's tactical prowess and the Yinchorri's gullibility. Following the death of Jedi Master Mika Giet, Gark disappeared. Sidious assumed he had fled. Confident Gark was of no importance, as he only knew what Sidious had allowed him to know.
The Jedi won, Master.
Did they? Allowed to flourish unchecked. The Yinchorri would have one day been an impediment to our plans. Thanks to the Jedi and the Senate, they are no longer a concern.
But, Master, if you had let me go, I could have seen to it that many more Jedi were killed.
Patience, apprentice. Our time will come. For now, let us relish this small victory.
With the crisis concluded, Sidious shifted focus toward the Trade Federation. Preparing Maul for future missions, Sidious informed Maul of two competing companies on Dorvala, Lomite Limited and Intergalactic Ore, both vital in the production of transparasteel, a material used in galactic construction. With the backing of Lieutenant Governor Wilf Tarkin, a secret Sith ally, Sidious aimed to manipulate these companies into mutual destruction. This would allow the Trade Federation to monopolize the ore trade and secure Dorvala's representation within the Senate, advancing their political influence. Success in this plan would also earn the Nemoidian Viceroy Newt Gunray a seat on the Trade Federation Directorate, further entrenching Sith control. Maul viewed the Nemoidians as cowardly and untrustworthy. Sidious reminded him that even weak tools have value in a larger strategy. The Sith could not ignore such influential yet easily manipulated figures in their quest for galactic domination. Sidious assigned Maul the task of ensuring Dorvala fell into the Trade Federation's hands, making it clear that his apprentice's actions would be instrumental in shaping the Sith's political front. As Maul prepared for his mission, Sidious evaluated his apprentice's double-bladed lightsaber, a design he had once encouraged. Maul explained his weapon granted him an advantage in both offense and defense. Sidious approved, but warned against revealing its purpose too early. A warrior's weapon can betray his intent. Sidious prepared Maul by warning him Dorvala would be unlike Coruscant, and he expected him to embrace the challenge, and to return successful. When Darth Maul arrived on Dorvala, he recognized his master's warnings. This world was primitive and lawless, a far cry from the comforts of Coruscant. The atmosphere was oppressive, the gravity weaker, and the settlements resembled frontier towns. The locals lacked ambition, and justice was handled without Jedi or legal interference. Maul used the Force to observe the locals until he discovered a conversation at a cantina involving Lomite Limited (LL) security officers discussing sabotage. His mission had begun. Maul then infiltrated the home of the LL's operations chief and learned of the plans to sabotage Intigal's ore shipment, with the help of a mercenary group called the Tomb Clan. Maul devised a plan to deepen the conflict. He forged a message implicating LL's leadership in an official deal with the Tombs, disguising the message as if it had came from the mercenaries themselves. He transmitted it to the Intigal, thus causing a chain reaction of paranoia and retaliation between the two companies. As planned, both LL and Intigal unknowingly hired the Tombs to sabotage each other, resulting in the destruction of most of their ore freighters. He further manipulated events by luring LL and Intigal's head of security to discover further evidence of the Tombs' deliberate attack on both factions. Now with LL and Intigal united in pursuit of vengeance against the mercenaries, the miners defeated the Tombs with only a few surviving members left. Maul briefly considered sparing them, but realized an investigation might risk exposure of Maul's involvement in the entire event. Maul slaughtered them, offering solace that their deaths served a larger purpose. His final act in completion of his mission, ensuring all evidence pointing to miners would be discovered by the Trade Federation. Returning to Coruscant, Sidious was pleased with Maul's success. He explained that Maul's actions had convinced LL to merge with Intigal and strengthen the Trade Federation's power, allowing the placing of Newt Gunray on its directorate. Maul noted that the Nemoidians' growing fear made them more obedient, much to Sidious's approval. Maul now hoped he could face the Jedi, but Sidious denied this, instead instructing him to study and learn about the Black Sun, a powerful crime syndicate. The Sith Lord also revealed his manipulation of other factions, hinting at a greater scheme centered around Naboo. At this time, Maul was also tasked to focus on his technical projects, like the Dark Eye probe droid, the assassin droid C-3PX, and his blood-fin speeder bike. Darth Sidious approached Maul with a dangerous infiltration mission, the prison colony CogHive 7. Maul's objective there was to locate an arms dealer by the name of Imran Radik. He was to retrieve a rare nuclear device intended for Radik's enemy, the Bando Gora. Maul would enter as a Zabrak prisoner under the alias Jaggernath. To preserve the continued secrecy of the Sith, Maul was forbidden from using the Force openly, relying instead on brute strength and cunning. The prison held many dangerous beings and used them in brutal gladiatorial games, pitting them against one another. Maul fought and won numerous brutal encounters against numerous opponents. One such victory would later be presumed to be a female Praetorite, Yushon Vong warrior. Resting and healing from his many wounds due to the intense fights, Maul would experience his first Force vision. He found himself in a room, and at his feet was a small black box.
This is it. The reason I came here. The reason I bled. Worse than the Wampa. Worse than the Weequay and his clawbird.
Before he picked it up, he looked to see himself.
Open it. It's yours. What are you waiting for? No. No, my master forbids it. Your master. Don't be a fool, it belongs to you. You'll need it if you're going to defeat me. Otherwise, you're as good as dead. Take it. No, I can't. It will undermine the mission that I'm sworn to uphold. I need to show restraint. I need to... You're lost without it. Perhaps before you make such statements, you better try me first. Really? It's too late for that. You've already been weighed, measured, and found wanting. See for yourself.
As he looked in his hand, his lightsaber, the box opened. Maul felt great shame.
What? Good. Now fight me. Wait.
Maul looked around and found himself. He was the one bisected. He wasn't the victor. He looked up. He saw a moon towering above him with a lightsaber.
Plagueis.
Continuing on his mission, the prison descended into chaos as it coincidentally came under an attack by Jabba the Hutt. During the assault, Maul secured the nuclear device and narrowly survived a betrayal by Radek, saved only by a boy named Egon Truax, who had used that moment to avenge his father who had died at the hands of Radek. A wounded Maul then was confronted by Komara Vosa, a fallen Jedi and leader of the Band Ogora. He reveled in the combat of an actual Force user, mocking her abilities. Their duel was short-lived, however, as they were attacked by a monstrous Cyrox worm. Impressed by Vosa's lack of fear in fighting the creature, even as it began to eat her alive, Maul aided her and leapt in, slicing the creature to pieces. Together with Vosa and Egon, they escaped the Doom facility aboard Jabba's ship, the Star Jewel. With the mission complete and the device secured, Maul returned to Coruscant, and his training at the hands of Sidious continued.
I run here to strike at the heart of the Black Sun.
I am yours to command.
Content that Maul was now ready, Darth Sidious tasked Maul to infiltrate and destabilize the Black Sun crime syndicate. Maul's mission to eliminate the Vigos and their leader, Alexi Garin. Sidious warned Maul that the Vigos had ties to the Trade Federation, but chose not to inform him that they had once targeted the life of Darth Plagueis. Sidious cautioned Maul about their skills, including the Force-sensitive Garin and his Night Sister bodyguard, Miguela. He was gifted by Darth Sidious the Sith infiltrator, the Scimitar. Maul did not feel deserving of the ship. Sidious suggested that he should then prove himself worthy. Maul vowed to complete the mission without failure. Maul's assault began. Locating Vigo Danada's space station hideaway, Maul gained access posing as a mercenary assassin seeking work. He slaughtered Danada's guards along with his personal bodyguard, leaving only one survivor, Asa Naga, a low-level Black Sun enforcer. After disposing of Danada, Maul let the enforcer go, knowing full well that he would go straight to Alexi Garin and rally the other Vigos. Maul inserted the rumor that the Vigos were at war with one another, and possibly planning to overthrow Garin. before removing all evidence of his presence by destroying the whole station. Maul then made for the Calamari system to interrogate and eliminate the Moncal Vigo Morn, knowing that the Vigo would now have the location of Garen and the rest of the Vigos all together in one place. After extracting the location of the meeting, the planet Raltia, Maul executed the sniveling Morn. Arriving on Raltia, Maul scouted the Black Sun Fortress with his Dark Eye probe droid. Once confirming the presence of Garen and all the remaining Vigos, he unleashed his full wrath. Blazing into the fortress on his speeder, the Bloodfin, Maul left a trail of bodies in his wake. Inside, he faced a gauntlet of elite bodyguards, slaying all in a brutal display of skill and savagery. The last guard, an Ektokchi, tried to probe Maul's mind, but was overwhelmed by the Sith's darkness and died from the experience. In the fortress's final chamber, Maul cornered and butchered the Vigos, before being confronted by Garen's bodyguard, the Night Sister, Miguela. She briefly stunned him with her use of Force Lightning before falling to his blade. Maul then confronted Garen. The Crime Lord expressed awe at the destruction wrought by a single being. Garen expressed his past Jedi aspirations and a growing fear of the Sith's return. In a moment of hubris, Maul said it was their time to return. With one desperate final act, Garen wounded Maul's chest and hand before being drowned at his hands in the fortress's reservoir. Maul was victorious, marked symbolically by his blood rippling through the water. He returned to Coruscant, wounded but triumphant, reporting the mission's success to Sidious, declaring that there were no survivors. Sidious, always the manipulator, continued to orchestrate events to test Maul. One such test was sending him to the Outer Rim in search of a Force aberration. Sidious claimed this could be a threat to the grand plan. A Force-sensitive Drovian named Silas, who used his abilities for nothing more than financial gain and fighting in a gladiator ring. Though disgusted by his waste of talents, Maul presented the Drovian with a message from his master Darth Sidious. Sidious explained that he had been watching his progress and could find use for him. But since he already had an apprentice, he made him a proposition. Kill Maul and Silas would become the Dark Lord's new apprentice. The Drovian accepted. Maul was angered and alarmed at Sidious's manipulation. They dueled in a nullifier field, preventing the use of energy weapons. This initially put Maul at a severe disadvantage. He was unprepared for the ferocity of the Drovian's initial attack. Embracing the shock and fear of the assault, Maul used his rage, channeling the Force to destroy the field. Then finally, activating his lightsaber, he proclaimed to Silas that he was his master's servant, and bisected the terrified Drovian, and proved his unwavering loyalty to his master. Darth Sidious summoned Maul to Coruscant with an important assignment. The Bartok, an insectoid species from the Outer Rim, who had been working alongside the Trade Federation, had launched a daring raid, double-crossing the Federation and stealing a freighter containing 50 prototype hyperdrive-equipped Vulture droids and an experimental hyperdrive. In an unfortunate course of events, the Jedi had learned about the production of the Vulture droids and could not be allowed to find out their true purpose. Upon locating the freighter, Maul discovered that it was heading for Raltia, a planet where Maul had only recently disposed of Alexei Garin, the former head of the Black Sun, plunging the crime syndicate into chaos. Following the freighter to the planet, aboard the cloaked scimitar, Maul, accompanied by his assassin droid C-3PX, landed and studied the Bartok fortress. Maul's plan was to allow himself to be captured by the Bartok and destroy them from within. He and his droid were apprehended and taken for interrogation. He made his escape and began to execute his plan, and the Bartok. It did not, however, go as smoothly as he hoped. He had underestimated the abilities of the Bartok, who, being insectoid, communicated telepathically via a hive mind. Finally subduing and eliminating the remaining Bartok threat and destroying their fortress, Maul discovered that they had, in fact, been employed by Grudo the Hutt. Grudo himself had been hired by the Trade Federation and had double-crossed them. Maul reprogrammed the captured Vulture droids to destroy Grudo's spaceship, but not before warning him, giving him time to escape. The Hutt and his son evacuated their ship just before it was destroyed. Sidious, deeming that living their lives in fear was of more use to the Sith than their death.
I am pleased with the way you dealt with the Black Sun assignment. The organization will be in disarray for years. Now I have another task for you.
Whatever my master wishes shall be done.
Darth Maul, one of the 4 Nemoidians I am dealing with, has disappeared. I suspect treachery. Find him. Make sure he has spoken to no one of the impending embargo. If he has, kill him. And everyone he has spoken to.
One of Maul's most important missions came when the Trade Federation's deputy, Hath Monkar, had vanished, taking a Sith holocron that contained vital information about Sidious's plans for the upcoming blockade on Naboo. Sidious tasked Maul with locating Monkar, ensuring he spoke to no one and eliminating anyone he might have informed. Sidious mentioned that Monkar had an apartment near the Minari Mountains on Coruscant, but left Maul to discover its exact location on his own. With only an image and a holonet password to go on, Maul set off for Coruscant aboard his cloaked infiltrator, the Scimitar. Upon landing in a rundown section of Galactic City, Maul evaded law enforcement and made his way to the Customs Bureau outpost. There, he used a holonet terminal to search for recently arrived Nemoidians and eventually tracked Monkar to a tavern in the Z-Kree sector. Learning from the bartender that Monkar intended to sell information to a Corellian broker by the name of Lorne Pavan, Maul discreetly followed his trail to the Dewback Inn. There, he located Monkar in conversation with Pavan and his protocol droid I-5YQ. Rather than act hastily, Maul resolved to follow Monkar to uncover whether others were involved. He later ambushed the Nemoidian in his penthouse, dispatching Monkar's guards and interrogating him long enough to confirm that he had spoken only to Pavan before Maul executed him in disgust. Just as Maul attempted to retrieve the holocron crystal, a bounty hunter by the name of Marwi Lin burst in, intending to take Monkar alive. After a brief but intense confrontation, Maul narrowly escaped an explosion triggered by Lin's wrist rocket. Frustrated by his failure to secure the holocron, Maul contacted Sidious, who ordered him to kill Pavan and recover the device. As Maul resumed the hunt, he discovered from a holomessage that Pavan had struck a deal with Black Sun Vigo Yanth the Hutt. Maul eliminated Yanth and his guards, but arrived too late to intercept Pavan. He later encountered Jedi Padawan Darsha Asant and her master Anun Bondara. Maul clashed with Bondara, killing him in an explosion, and chased the fugitives into the Coruscant sewers. There, Maul slew several monstrous Scythons and narrowly escaped a force-resistant Ta'auzin. The mission climaxed in a warehouse duel with Darsha, who sacrificed herself to kill Maul in a massive explosion. But Maul survived. Believing Pavan to have died in the explosion, he prepared to report back to his master. In truth, Pavan had survived by freezing himself in carbonite, later freed by his companion droid I-5YQ. Determined to complete his mission, he traveled to Coruscant to deliver the holocron to someone he believed could expose the upcoming threat, Senator Palpatine. Unbeknownst to him, Palpatine was Darth Sidious, Maul's master. Accepting the holocron with a calm smile, Palpatine kindly offered Pavan a place to rest. But as Pavan arrived at the hotel room, Darth Maul was awaiting in the doorway, and in moments, Pavan was no more, along with any trace of what he knew. With the threat of Pavan exposing the blockade neutralized, Sidious proceeded with his plans by instructing Newt Gunray to establish the Trade Federation blockade around Naboo. After positioning his freighters, Newt Gunray warned the Republic that any attempt to break the blockade would be met with deadly force, and without compliance, the Naboo people would starve. Sensing the crisis's volatility, Supreme Chancellor Valorum, bypassing the Senate, secretly sent Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi to negotiate with the Trade Federation. This unexpected move blindsided Darth Sidious and Darth Plagueis, who had believed the Jedi would not be used again after incidents like Galderan and Iradu. In retaliation, the Sith accelerated their plans, ordering the Nemoidians to kill the Jedi and launch the invasion of Naboo ahead of schedule. Queen Amidala, they believed, would be forced to sign a treaty legitimizing the occupation, placing Naboo and its plasma reserves under Federation control.
I have the Senate bogged down in procedures. They will have no choice but to accept your control of the system. Queen Amidala is young and naive. You will find controlling her will not be difficult.
As Sidious assured Gunray of non-interference from the Republic, he also prepared Darth Maul to intervene, declaring that the Sith's time to emerge had come. Maul, summoned during training to overhear the Federation's transmission, questioned whether the Nemoidians could actually kill Jedi. Sidious dismissed their competence, but acknowledged they might get lucky. Shortly thereafter, the Federation's forces began with their swift takeover of Naboo, seizing its cities, including the capital, Theed. Later, when the news came that the Jedi ambassadors and Queen Amidala had escaped Naboo, Sidious commanded Maul to find a lost ship.
This is my apprentice, Darth Maul. He will find your lost ship.
Delighting in the fear of the Trade Federation leaders, Maul used a forged distress transmission to track the refugees to Tatooine. En route to Tatooine, Maul narrowly escaped a Toygarian pirate ambush, despite sustaining a leg wound in a fierce battle with the pirate leader Helatan. Maul successfully destroyed the pirates and continued on his mission aboard the Scimitar. Proceeding directly to Tatooine, Maul landed the cloaked scimitar outside of the populace. He deployed 3 Dark Eye probe droids to locate the Jedi and the Queen's ship. This strategy preserved his anonymity and allowed him to stay with his ship and heal his injured leg. At dawn, Maul was lured away from the scimitar by the tracks of a band of at least 30 Tusken raiders who masked their numbers by traveling in single file. Restraining himself from violence to avoid raising suspicion, Maul made a strategic retreat. When his comlink alarm signaled the probe's success in locating the targets. Maul lost signal from one probe droid near Mos Esper's Grand Arena, its final image transmitted being a bearded Jedi. Another probe droid successfully located the Naboo Royal Starship hidden on the outskirts of Mos Esper. Maul quickly took to his speeder to intercept. Concealing himself in the Force, he confronted the Jedi and his young companion as they approached the ship. During the intense duel, Maul felt confident he could kill the tiring Jedi, using the pain in his leg to fuel his rage. However, the boy managed to alert the ship's crew, allowing them to escape. As Maul watched the ship vanish into space, he felt immense shame for his failure. Maul also welcomed it as it deepened his anger and dark power. He returned to the scimitar to report back to Sidious before returning to Coruscant. As Maul returned to his works and training, he feared Sidious would punish him harshly for his failure. Yet, to his surprise, Sidious remained calm after hearing the report.
Report.
Queen Amidala and the Jedi were on Tatooine, Master. A Jedi and a young boy were running for the Queen's starship when I came upon them in the desert. The Jedi and I dueled. I nearly had him. But the boy reached the ship. The ship lifted off, and the Jedi leapt to it. I failed to stop them, my master.
You feel you would have defeated this Jedi?
Yes, my master. I felt entire. I can defeat him.
Was he bearded?
That is Qui-Gon Jinn. He is the stronger of the two. His Padawan is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Contemplating Sidious's measured response, Maul understood that the Jedi and Queen Amidala were already on Coruscant, intending to rally the Senate to aid Naboo's liberation. Sidious confirmed this and instructed Maul not to kill the Jedi while they were on Coruscant, revealing he had other plans for them.
Is he angry? Waiting to punish me for the pirates, the bantha tracks, my wounded leg? Think of the now. Think of the future. Do not meditate on the past. Think of the now. Think of the future. Do not meditate on the past. Think of the now. Think of the future. Do not meditate on the past. Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn. I will destroy you, Qui-Gon Jinn. I will see the shock in your eyes when I run you through, Qui-Gon Jinn. I will stand over your dead body in triumph, Qui-Gon Jinn. Because of you, I failed my master. You will pay.
Maul's shame and anger burned fiercely, both for letting the Jedi escape and for what he saw as Qui-Gon's dishonorable retreat. It was only hours after his arrival on Coruscant that Maul was summoned back to his work strategy room, where he found Sidious shedding his Palpatine guise to reveal his identity. Sidious gleefully explained that Queen Amidala had failed to convince Chancellor Valorum and the Senate to condemn the Trade Federation blockade or intervene on Naboo's behalf. Despite the surprise of seeing his master so pleased, Maul inwardly acknowledged that Sidious's distraction meant his own failures on Tatooine were no longer critical. Sidious predicted that the Queen would return to Naboo with the Jedi, instructing Maul to hide and listen as he told Viceroy Newt Gunray to eliminate her on arrival since she was no longer useful. Sidious delighted in the control he held over the unfolding events, ordering Maul to command the Federation forces on Naboo and personally ensure the destruction of the Queen and the Jedi. En route to Naboo, Maul reflected on his past mistakes and the unfolding plan. He noticed that most Trade Federation ships had left, leaving only the control ship, Vutan Pala, and briefly considered sabotaging it, but chose to conserve his effort. Upon landing near Theed, Maul observed the droid-guarded detention centers and tested their limits with the Force. Though he trusted Sidious's strategy, Maul's disdain grew for the incompetent Nemoidian leaders. Despite their fear of him, setbacks mounted against the Naboo resistance. On Sidious's orders, Maul sought out information about the Gungans and eliminated any suspicion of Palpatine's role in Naboo's turmoil. Armed with new intelligence, Maul led droid forces against the Gungans, capturing their leaders and using the Force to open their defenses. He pushed deeper into Naboo, grappling with growing doubts about his place within the Sith hierarchy and the true intentions behind his master's plans. When he uncovered the story of the Mune, Higo Damask, a familiar vision resurfaced in his mind. Plagueis. Could this be the very same? Trade Federation sensors and troops soon located the Jedi along with their Naboo infiltrators. Darth Maul was ready. He raced from the palace to break through the puny assault force and finally confront the Jedi in a battle he had already choreographed in his mind. Under new urgent orders from his master, Maul was tasked with eliminating the Jedi without fail. There was no margin for error this time. Sidious's directive came from a desperate Plagueis whose recent Force vision of Anakin Skywalker had prompted the urgency. The deaths of the Jedi would send a clear message to the Jedi High Council. The Sith had returned to mete out their long-sworn vengeance, and the days of the Jedi Order were numbered. This was the moment Maul had waited and prepared for his entire life. He was determined to prove his worth as a true Sith Lord to his master, whether it was Damask or Sidious, Plagueis or Palpatine. Maul waited behind the doors leading to the hangar, sensing the Jedi among Queen Amidala's group of resistance fighters. As the doors opened, the fighters froze at the sight of the Zabrak blocking their path. Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi stepped forward to confront him, while Amidala and her followers faced off against 3 droideka.
We'll handle this.
We'll take the long way.
Maul ignited both blades of his lightsaber. Noting Jinn's slower pace compared to Kenobi, a long, intense battle raged as Maul dueled the two Jedi through the feed generator room and its catwalks. Eventually, Qui-Gon Jinn was separated from his Padawan, and Maul faced him one-on-one. Driven by the sting of his own perceived failure, while Jinn remained focused. Their fight led them to an exhaust chamber divided by laser walls, with Kenobi trapped outside and Maul mere meters away from Qui-Gon, who meditated while awaiting for the barriers to deactivate. When the walls dropped, the duel between Maul and Jinn resumed. Ending abruptly when Maul caught Jinn off guard, striking him with the hilt of his saber before stabbing him in the abdomen. With Jinn fallen, Kenobi, with a brief hint of rage, was left isolated behind the energy barriers. As they disabled, Kenobi rushed Maul, unleashing a fury. Kenobi severed Maul's lightsaber, but Maul discarded the broken half and unleashed a furious counterattack, ultimately forcing Kenobi to fall into the reactor shaft. Victory was at hand. Maul felt triumphant. Everything he had been trained for, everything he had been born into, had culminated in this very moment. The defeat of a Jedi Master and the defeat of his apprentice. His own master would be pleased. But as Kenobi hung there, he thought of his fallen master and remembered his fateful words.
Don't set on your fears. Concentrate on the here and now. Be mindful of the living force, my young Padawan. Be strong.
Kenobi suddenly leapt from the edge, summoning Jinn's lightsaber to his hand with the Force. Caught off guard from the reversal, Maul had no time to react, no time to block. In a flash, Kenobi struck, cleaving Maul in two. The Sith's body fell silently into the shaft below, swallowed by the darkness.
Against all my teaching, he hesitated in order to reveal in his triumph. Maul did not have enough time to parry the blow that must have been the last great surprise of his life. My worthy apprentice failed me in the end.
The battle for Naboo had been a pyrrhic victory for Sidious. Despite Maul's death and the failure to eliminate the Queen, among other setbacks, Sidious ultimately emerged victorious. That same night, he had murdered his own master and secured the chancellorship of the Republic. Sidious had gained power, and nothing would stand in his way. Maul had believed himself invincible, but in the end, it did not matter. His loss was the consequences of Sidious's own teachings. A setback, but only a minor one. Within a year, Sidious would recruit a former Jedi Master, Count Dooku, also known as Darth Tyrannus. Dooku, a master of both combat and politics, was exactly the tool Sidious needed to advance his next objective, the Clone Wars. Unknown to Sidious, however, Maul would survive.
Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. Victory, victory, victory is the one thing I have never achieved myself. To be continued.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to comment and like the video.